Now, India has called for a United Nations-led consensus on zero tolerance on terrorism while condemning Pakistan's use of cross-border insurgency as an instrument of state policy. Addressing the 40th session of the Human Rights Council, India's permanent representative of India to the United Nations, Ambassador Rajiv Chandar, said that terrorism is the most fundamental violation of human rights. India has also reiterated that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of India and that Pakistan remains in illegal occupation of the Indian territory. Now, the Indian Home Ministry has urged all states and union territories to ensure the safety and security of people belonging to Jammu and Kashmir. The Home Ministry has tweeted, and I quote, "The Ministry of Home Affairs, through an advisory issued today to the states and the union territories, has asked the state governments to reinforce the existing arrangements to ensure safety and security of people belonging to Jammu and Kashmir residing in their respective jurisdictions." The Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has promised a Naya Pakistan. Naya in Urdu, of course, stands for the word new. While addressing a rally in Sindh, the Pakistani Prime Minister said that his government will act against terror groups operating from Pakistani soil. And the comment comes in the backdrop of global pressure on Islamabad to act against terror. Pakistan has now given the permission to a United Nations team to visit Balakot, and the decision comes nearly 2 weeks after India had conducted an operation on the 26th of February. Now, the Indian Air Force carried out preemptive strikes on a Jaish-e-Mohammed camp in Pakistan's Balakot. Pakistan has repeatedly denied that India struck terror targets in Balakot. Pakistan had also refused access to foreign journalists who tried to access the Jaish camp there. India and Russia have inked another major defense deal worth $3 billion. Now, military sources say that under the deal, the Indian Navy will be leasing a nuclear-powered attack submarine for about 10 years. Now, the agreement requires Russia to deliver the Akula-class submarine, which is known as Chakra 3, by the year 2025. Now, India's top court has referred the Ayodhya Babri land dispute for mediation. The court has constituted a panel of mediators, which will be headed by the former top court judge, Justice F.M. Khalifullah. The panel will also comprise of spiritual guru Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and advocate Sri Ram Panchu. Significantly, the court has banned the media from reporting and speculating on media proceedings. Now, one of India's most wanted billionaire, diamond tycoon Nirav Modi, has been tracked down to an £8 million apartment in London's West End. The British newspaper Telegraph tracked the jeweller down to a 3-bedroom flat occupying half of the floor of the landmark Centrepoint Tower in London. Nirav Modi, remember, had fled India last year after becoming a big suspect in what has been described as the biggest banking fraud in the country's history. The White House Deputy Chief of Staff and also Air Force Secretary have resigned. White House Communications Director Bill Shine will now become a senior advisor to President Trump's 2020 re-election campaign. Now, long considered a top candidate to become the next Secretary of Defense, Heather Wilson has also decided to resign. She's slated to become the next president of the University of Texas at El Paso. Now, US President Donald Trump has said that he is confident that the United States can forge a trade deal with China. He's also said that he thinks that his country will do very well with or without an agreement with the world's second largest economy. When asked about a report that China was not positive about a trade deal and that a meeting with President Xi Jinping might not happen, Trump said that he hasn't heard of anything like that and that the trade talks are going pretty well. Now, US President Donald Trump visited communities in eastern Alabama that were devastated by tornadoes that tore through homes and businesses, killing at least 23 people. Now, Trump and his wife Melania Trump took a helicopter tour of the area before going to the homes of some victims. Now, Sunday's tornadoes were the deadliest to have hit the state since the year 2013. The Israeli forces shot dead a Palestinian and also wounded 42 others taking part in weekly protests at the fortified Gaza Strip border. The Israeli military said that over 8,000 Palestinians took part in the demonstrations, throwing rocks and explosives towards soldiers, and that some also tried to breach the fence into Israel. The Gaza's health authorities said that some 200 people have been killed since the Palestinians launched weekly border protests on the 30th of March last year. The Palestinians also clashed with the Israeli soldiers in the West Bank. The Israeli soldiers used rubber bullets and tear gas besides other weapons to disperse the crowd. The clashes followed a demonstration to protest against the killing of 2 Palestinian residents and to demand the return of their bodies that are being held by Israel. But the Israeli army has said that 2 targeted Israeli soldiers with their vehicles earlier this week, prompting the troops to open fire. As fighting in Syria's last rebel-held enclave of Baghuz intensifies, the United Nations has said that at least about 62,000 people have been uprooted by the fighting. Now, the UN figures say that more than 5,000 people have flooded the Al-Hol displacement camp in Syria just in the past week alone. The United Nations officials have said that the camp has exceeded its capacity, with the current population exceeding 62,000 people. More than 1,000 activists rallied in Istanbul to demand the release of women prisoners in Syria. Women tied their hands and also held them up in the air as part of a protest that was dubbed the Silent Scream. The rally was part of a campaign that was organized by Humanitarian Relief Foundation to raise awareness of the plight of Syrian women in prisons. Now, according to organizers, more than 13,500 women were sent to prison in Syria since the conflict began almost about 8 years ago, and more than 7,000 of those women are still subjected to torture, rape and also other inhumane treatment. The power supply began to resume in parts of Venezuela following a nationwide blackout. Blackout lasted for more than 20 hours. Schools and workplaces in Venezuela have also been shut following the blackout, and according to local media reports, 15 of the country's 23 states have been badly affected by the blackouts, as well as Caracas. The government of President Nicolas Maduro has blamed the opposition, accusing them of sabotage, and the opposition leader Juan Guaido has blamed the government. Amidst the ongoing political crisis, the United Nations Human Rights Office has said that it will send a team to Venezuela next week to meet with victims of rights violations. The technical mission, which is expected to be in Venezuela from the 11th till the 22nd of March, will also try to pave the way for a visit by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet. Now, the United States and South Korea have signed a defense cost-sharing deal to boost the amount that Seoul contributes towards the upkeep of the US troops on the peninsula. The two countries had struggled to reach a breakthrough despite 10 rounds of talks since March, and the deal will also boost South Korea's contribution from 960 billion won in 2018 to 1.03 trillion won. A South Sudan military court sentenced 3 soldiers to death by firing squad and a 4th to 10 years imprisonment for killing 2 civilians in their homes in robbery that motivated attacks last year. Now, all 4 soldiers, 2 of them with the rank of sergeant, have been dismissed from the army. In September last year, 10 soldiers were found guilty of an attack on an hotel in the capital city of Juba, in which about 5 foreign aid workers were gang raped and also a South Sudanese journalist was killed. The Peruvian authorities unveiled a cache of chlorinated cocaine that was seized as a result of a 2-month-long anti-drug trafficking operation. Now, the almost 2 tons of cocaine was destined for distribution in Mexico and the United States. A fishing boat was also detained in the northern Peruvian coast, with authorities finding 1,820 packets of cocaine on board. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Peru is the 2nd largest drug producer in the world after Colombia. British Prime Minister Theresa May has made her last-ditch attempt to convince the European Union to give her a better Brexit deal. Now, speaking at the Brexit stronghold of Grimsby, she said that if her deal fails to win a majority in the lower chamber of the British legislature next week, then Britain may leave the European Union without a deal. Now, Theresa May has also said that if the deal she has negotiated is not embraced, then the only certainty will be more uncertainty in the country. Now, tens of thousands of Algerians packed central Algiers to capacity to challenge President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's 20-year-old reign in the biggest of the protests in the capital since in the last 28 years. While the demonstrations were mostly peaceful, the police had to use tear gas to block the road to the presidential palace and also used it in several other areas of the capital. The Algerians are fed up with unemployment and corruption and have taken to the streets for the past 2 weeks to protest against the 82-year-old's plans to remain in office. Around 300 students marched to demand climate action in Paris for the 4th time this year. The rally, of course, marks the 4th consecutive week of protests, which started in the French capital on the 15th of February. The protesters chanted slogans and also carried signs as they marched in city streets to fight for the planet. Now, the protests are expected to continue next week with a global climate strike set for the 15th of March. The women activists in Kenya took to the streets of the country's capital to protest against gender-based violence in the country. The protesters cheered, chanted and also carried banners as they walked through Nairobi and demanded that women feel safe to report sexual abuse crimes. The tech giant Google has said that the controversial Saudi government app Share will remain available for download. The app's feature, which allows Saudi men to grant or deny a woman permission to travel, has stirred much controversy, with many asking for it to be taken down. However, Google will keep the app available for download. And thousands of dogs competed for the coveted title of Best in Show in Birmingham, England. Now, Crufts is one of the largest dog events in the world, founded in 1891 by the late Charles Cruft. Every year, the show attracts thousands of entrants from across the world.